Greetings, everyone. Welcome to the Digitizing Hidden Collections, Amplifying Unheard Voices recipient webinar. And we are going to start with a short video presentation.
Hello and welcome to the recipient webinar for the Digitizing Hidden Special Collections Amplifying Unheard Voices program. We want to begin by congratulating you all again on being selected as grant recipients for the program. It is a truly remarkable collection of projects, and we know how much work has gone into them already. We are so excited to see these projects progress over the coming months and years. During today's session, we'll briefly explain what you may need to know as your grant project begins. We'll be covering the following topics. In part one, we'll talk about CLIR, our team, and you, the 2025 recipients of Digitizing Hidden Collections, Amplifying Unheard Voices grants. In part two, we'll transition to grant management and discuss grant modifications and reporting requirements. We'll cover how to make changes to your project and how and when to report on activities. In part three, we'll discuss ways to stay in touch throughout your project and answer any questions you may have. Feel free to type your questions into the Q&A box and we'll address them during this third portion of the webinar. We especially want to welcome staff who may not oversee these projects, but will work on them daily. It's really important to us that you hear about all of these details too, so that you understand how your work fits into your organization's grant and larger cultural heritage preservation efforts at CLIR. So with that, let's get started. We'll start our time together with some introductions, first to this platform and then to CLIR. Here are some notes about how you can use Zoom during this session. You can click the CC Show Captions button at the bottom of your Zoom window to turn on the live transcript. You're welcome to use chat for general introductions and conversation. In order to send a message to everyone, remember to change the default from host and panelists to everyone. Use the separate Q&A feature to ask questions. We'll have a dedicated time to answer questions at the end. And finally, the session is being recorded. The recording, slides, and transcript will be made available on the Manage an Award page of our website within 2 weeks of this webinar.
CLIR's work is accomplished by a relatively small staff of about 20 geographically distributed individuals. Today's webinar is led by the grants team, which administers CLIR's active re-granting programs, offering support for the entire grant cycle from application to final report. Some or all of you may already know us from applicant webinars or from email exchanges, but we'll do some quick introductions. Our team includes Sharon Burney, Program Officer based in Midlothian, Virginia, Allison Pope, Program Officer based in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, Jane Larson, Senior Program Associate based in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, Lizzie Albert, Community Relations Manager based in Washington, D.C., and Louisa Quasigra, Managing Director based in Chicago, Illinois. Our team would like to center today's conversation by acknowledging that, as residents of the United States, we are speaking to you from unceded land of many Indigenous peoples. I'd like to respectfully acknowledge and recognize the original and current caretakers of the land, water, and air where I live, the Piscataway and Anacostan peoples, and all of their ancestors and descendants. I am grateful to have the opportunity to live and work on their homelands and ask you to join me in acknowledging all Indigenous communities, their elders, both past and present, as well as future generations. May this acknowledgement remind us of our shared commitment to beginning the process of working to dismantle the ongoing legacies of settler colonialism. On this slide, we've listed all the organizations participating in awarded grants in this cycle. You are a broadly experienced group, and we know that there are many others who are helping you as partners too. You will often hear us refer to you as the program's 2025 grant recipients of Amplifying Unheard Voices, AUV, Cohort 3. Please feel free to introduce yourself and your role in the chat.
For those new to CLIR, we'd like to begin with a reminder of our mission. The Council on Library and Information Resources is an independent nonprofit organization that forges strategies to enhance research, teaching, and learning environments in collaboration with libraries, cultural institutions, and communities of higher learning. So what does that all mean? CLIR takes on a number of roles, including publishing research, convening meetings, and running programs. As an independent nonprofit, we are not part of the federal government. We are also not a private foundation. Our activities are not funded by an endowment, but rather by a combination of grants and sponsorship, which gives us the flexibility to operate our programs a bit differently than government funders or private foundations. The Digitizing Hidden Collections program is a regranting program, which means the funds for your projects were awarded as part of a grant to CLIR from the Mellon Foundation. CLIR reapplies periodically to Mellon for funds to operate the Hidden Collections program and award new grants, so we can empathize with all of the work that you put in to get here. Digitizing Hidden Collections is just one of many programs administered by CLIR. In 2021, with the Mellon Foundation support, the program transitioned to a new thematic focus, Amplifying Unheard Voices. There are many metrics by which the program measures its progress, including but absolutely not limited to the number of funded projects, awarded funds, and digitization outputs. As a historical overview, since the program began in 2015, CLIR has awarded $35.9 million to fund 149 projects and generate more than 10.6 million master digital files. 49 of those projects were funded through Amplifying Unheard Voices, and the program is currently in its 4th cycle. We also wanted to shout out a community facilitated by another CLIR program, the Digital Library Federation. There are more than 10 amazing working groups coordinated by DLF, where practitioners meet regularly on a variety of digital library topics. A couple I want to point to in particular are the Metadata Support Group, which runs a Slack space for folks dealing with metadata, and the Digital Accessibility Working Group, who are currently offering accessibility audits of websites and systems, which you can contribute to or take advantage of. DLF's working groups meet regularly and are open to everyone. Finally, one last resource we would like to share is the Digitizing Special Formats Wiki. This is a project of DLF and contains a growing collection of resources about planning and executing digitization projects. If there are additional resources you think would be helpful to include on the guide, it's an ever-evolving document open for contributions.
Now that you know who we are and the range of things we do as an organization, we will move into a discussion about some key administrative information for you as the latest recipients of Digitizing Hidden Collections, Amplifying Unheard Voices grants. We realize that this webinar will contain a lot of information that may not seem relevant now, but we'll be sharing the recording and transcript online so that you can reference it later or share it with others. In this next section, we'll describe processes for grant modifications and reporting requirements. Although we hope and expect that project activities listed in your approved proposals will be executed as described, we understand that unanticipated issues can arise that may require that you deviate from the original plans you submitted. We realize that many of you will face operational hurdles that may cause delays. We hope you understand that our job is to support your teams as you encounter the unexpected during your project timelines. Some project changes won't require pre-approval from CLIR, such as a change in project staff other than the principal investigators, which we refer to as PIs, or small shifts in budget expenditures. Generally, some small changes can be addressed in a project's interim narrative and financial reports. However, changes that affect the underlying terms of the grant must receive prior approval by CLIR. Examples include extensions of the project end date, changes to PIs, any changes to the collections being digitized through the project, and significant budget reallocations. Modification requests are common for this program, and you should not hesitate to ask us for what you need to do to successfully complete your project. Program staff can always be reached by email at hiddencollections@clir.org. To move forward with a modification, CLIR has an online form through which recipients can initiate modification requests. Access to the grant modification and extension request form is available through a link at the top of the Manage and Award page. The form is designed to allow for the submission of multiple types of modification requests. The form includes sections on descriptive information, questions about extension requests, other types of modification requests, and a space to provide a brief explanation and justification of the modification. Once the form has been submitted and received, you should hear from CLIR staff within 2 weeks. For that reason, if you need a modification, it is important to request at least 1 to 3 months before the final end date of your grant. Some modifications, such as changes in principal investigator, should be requested immediately rather than waiting until the end of your project. Project end dates were included in the grant agreement. And if you ever need a reminder of your project end date or award number, just ask. In many cases, completing the form will be all you need to do to seek approval for a modification. However, sometimes additional documentation may be required in order to move forward with the request. The guidelines for modification requests vary slightly between CLIR's different grant programs, so be sure to check the Manage and Award page for the most up-to-date information. If you have any questions about the process, CLIR staff is always available via our program email address. In order for you to prepare the necessary information for the modification request, we also provide a grant modification form template, also available on the Manage and Award page. The online form does involve some question logic, so you may not be required to answer all of the questions on the template, depending on how you answer others. A link is provided at the top of the document that allows you to create a personal copy of the template that you can share with anyone you're collaborating with. All modification requests should be submitted through the online form, so you will need to copy and paste your prepared responses into that space.
No-cost extensions are exactly what they sound like, a request to push back the project end date and final report without requesting additional funding. No-cost extensions may be requested in the case of unforeseen project delays, which may include prolonged personnel searches, staff turnover, delays when working with a vendor partner, illnesses, or delays caused by institutional infrastructure issues. No-cost extensions should be requested between 1 and 3 months prior to a project's end date. The reason we ask you to wait until these final months of the project is that only one no-cost extension can be granted per project. We have found that requests made closer to the end date provide more accurate estimates of the amount of extra time that's needed. We encourage you to take time now to set a calendar reminder for your team for your end date and for 3 months before the end of your project, so you'll know when it's time to request an extension if you need one. You may also want to set similar reminders for your annual reporting deadlines. Keep in mind that your end date and your final reporting deadline are 2 different dates. The end date is the point at which all work on your project must be completed and all grant funds expended. You cannot spend grant funds after your end date without first being granted an extension. Your final reporting deadline is set 3 months after your end date, so that you have time to reflect upon your work and complete final accounting for your grant. It's important to note that extensions cannot be granted for projects whose end dates have already passed. We really cannot emphasize enough the importance of paying attention to your project end date. We recommend requesting the standard project extension length of 12 months. On the request form, you are also able to enter a custom date, but we may choose to make an alternative recommendation. If one of the principal investigators, also known as PIs, changes during the grant, the grantee must inform CLIR immediately by completing the grant modification form. All of CLIR's grant management tasks, including setting up our grant management system to accept your reports, require current contact details for all principal investigators. So it is important we know when a principal investigator departs your organization and that their responsibilities have been transferred to someone else. In order to complete a change of PI, you will also be required to supply the program email, a letter on institutional letterhead from the head of your organization or department. The letter doesn't need to be long, but should include the name, title, and contact information of the new PI, as well as the date the change will become effective. A CV for the new PI will also be required for our files.
On occasion, grantees find it necessary to spend grant funds in a manner other than that originally proposed in their application. Reallocations of grant funds are allowable, but these changes must be carefully reviewed and approved by CLIR staff prior to the reallocated funds being spent. Again, you will complete the grant modification form to initiate this process. Any proposed use of reallocated funds should be aligned with the original goals and scope of the project and within the program guidelines and limits for allowable and disallowed costs for AUV Cohort 3 of the Digitizing Hidden Collections program. Any requests to reallocate funds from salary and benefit lines to other areas of a grant budget will undergo additional scrutiny. CLIR strongly prefers that funds approved for staff support be spent on staff support. As a rule of thumb, CLIR generally doesn't require notification for reallocations that amount to less than 5% of a project's total budget. However, all projects should contact CLIR about any reallocations that are over $10,000. When in doubt, ask us or go ahead and complete the grant modification form. When completing the grant modification form, you'll be asked to provide the amount of funds remaining in the grant, how much, if any, of the original funds will remain at the close of the project, and a brief description of how the funds will be spent. CLIR program staff may request additional information, such as a revised project budget, to complete review of the request. All of this information can be found on the Manage and Award page. Should we update any of our grant modifications procedures, we'll post the most up-to-date information there for your preference. Do be sure to share this webpage with all staff who may be involved in the management of your project. CLIR program staff are available to answer any of your questions related to modifications, so don't hesitate to reach out via our program email. As we mentioned, modifications are not uncommon with this program, and we always seek to find ways to make your project successful. For more complicated grant modification requests, you may find it helpful to set up a conversation with a program officer prior to submitting your request. We'll be happy to talk through any possible changes. At this point, we'll shift into a discussion of reporting requirements. Recipients of the Hidden Collections grant are required to submit reports, both narrative and financial, through our online system on or before the dates outlined in your grant agreements. If you don't have access to a copy of your letter and need to know your designated report dates or any other information related to your report, do let us know. Your first report is due a year and 2 months after the start date of your project, and then each interim report after that is due exactly 1 year after the previous one. Your final report is then due 3 months after your project end date. This means we should be receiving 1 report from you each year. If your project is only 12 months, you will just submit your final report 3 months after the end date of your project. Your annual reports to CLIR are a deeply important part of the agreement between our grantees, CLIR, and our own funder, the Mellon Foundation. Our team compiles its own reports on the Hidden Collections program each year, which we submit to Mellon annually. This report also includes all of the reports we received from our recipients in the previous 12 months and communicates to Mellon the importance of the work that all of you are doing. Just a few more words on reporting. Reports are not only a way to help us keep up with your progress, but also a means for us to provide the best support to you as your project evolves. Your reports can also help us to help you identify and mitigate potential issues in advance. And if you find that your report is likely to be late due to circumstances beyond your control, which we know can happen, let us know as soon as possible. We are glad to work with our grantees in these situations, but it's important that we hear about them before your report is overdue. To submit your reports, you will use the same system that your team used to apply for your grant, SM Apply. You can find this linked on the Manage and Award page. All communication and reminders for reporting will be sent to the PIs on file, so if there are any others involved in the project work who will need such notifications, you will need to send us names and contact information for those folks. Please share this additional contact information as soon as possible so we can keep our records up to date. It is a good idea to log into SM Apply at your earliest convenience using the same email address and password you used to submit your application. If you use these same credentials, you should automatically see the reporting form for your project when logged in. If you forget these credentials or lose access to them for any reason, for example, if the person who created your application leaves your organization, you will need to contact us so that we can link your report to the correct credentials. One way to future-proof your team's access to the report would be to log in using the application credentials, hit start, and then add other team members' email addresses as collaborators on your report. Collaborators will then receive an automatic invitation to verify their email addresses and create their own passwords to access the system. Once they accept the invitation and create their credentials, they will also be able to log in to view the report and enter data. One of the system's safety measures ensures that only the proposal owner is able to submit a report, so if one of the collaborators eventually needs to submit, that person will need to contact us to make sure this can happen. Collaborators do not have to be limited to PIs. If your financial reporting is handled by a research office or grant manager, you may want to add them as well.
Teams of collaborators working on project reports can also reference our report form template Google Doc, also available on the Manage and Award page. This document includes the questions you'll be expected to answer on the reporting form. For now, we'll just briefly cover the components of the report so that you are prepared with the relevant information you need when the time comes. The report form is organized into 4 to 5 sections: general information, narrative assessment, quantitative assessment, financial assessment, and final project assessment, final reports only. When writing your report, the first place to start is the final proposal you submitted to CLIR during the application process. All sections of the report should demonstrate the project's consistency with these original ideals. Of course, some variations are to be expected as the project adapts to real-life scenarios and new opportunities. Small differences between the planned approach and actual project work can be explained in the narrative report. However, as mentioned earlier, grantees will need to request grant modifications for more substantive changes, particularly those regarding the budget, timeline, or deliverables. Overall, it is important to demonstrate to CLIR and the Mellon Foundation that the scope and goals of the project continue to reflect the proposal selected for funding by CLIR's independent review panel. If you are working through the report and need to take a break, just scroll to the bottom of whichever page you are on within the report form, and you will find the option to save and continue editing. With that overview in mind, we're now going to do a quick walkthrough of the information you will be asked to include in your reports to CLIR. The first section of our report covers general information about the project. Grant reference number, which is provided in your grant agreement. Project title, institution/organization. PIs, contact information of person submitting the form. The first 3 elements, grant reference number, project title, and institution organization, will be pre-populated from your final application and cannot be edited. If you encounter any errors in that information, contact us to have it corrected. There will be additional sections of the report that are pre-populated from your final application, which we'll touch on shortly. These sections are also indicated in the aforementioned Google Docs reporting template with a blank asterisk. So if you're working collaboratively in that document ahead of time, please remember that these will be areas that you do not need to fill out. Enter names and email addresses for current project PIs. Changing PIs will require a formal grant modification submission. If you have made any modifications or personal changes, you'll want to mention this in the progress and impact question under the narrative assessment.
The narrative assessment provides space for the project team to summarize your progress toward the project goals and objectives during the reporting period, emphasizing how this progress has exemplified the core values of the Amplifying Unheard Voices program: public knowledge, broad representation, authentic partnerships, sustainable infrastructures, and community-centered access. You will also want to discuss any challenges or setbacks you have experienced in this reporting period and any strategies that have proven successful in addressing them. And finally, you will want to describe your future plans for the remainder of the project. All questions in the assessment section have space for text-based responses and are word limited. The word limit is indicated above the text box. You may find it easier to draft your responses elsewhere, such as in the Google template, and paste them here, rather than drafting and editing in the report space. The system will generate an error when you try to save and move forward if you enter more words than are allowed. The next section of the report form will ask for information about three things. One, the quantity and types of materials you propose to digitize compared to what has actually been digitized during the reporting period. Two, the preservation file formats and quantities proposed compared to what has actually been created during the reporting period. And three, information about the creation and accessibility of metadata records for the files you have created. To complete this part of the report, questions referring to the original quantities proposed will be pre-populated with the information you entered in your final application. These questions will be locked for editing and hidden from view until you choose a number of categories of source materials from the quantity dropdown. The instructions will indicate to you how many categories were originally proposed, so you don't have to remember. You will be able to consult the figures you proposed, then share what you actually digitized during the reporting period. Begin by selecting the number of categories of source materials you actually digitized. Up to 10 categories are allowed, but unless you have added materials to your project plan, you will probably need the same number of categories you proposed or fewer if you haven't yet started working on some types of materials. Categories should match the order of the categories defined in your final application and those auto-generated within the report. Once the number of categories is entered, the same number of populated category fields will appear below. The questions regarding preservation file formats will be structured the same way, with the information regarding what you originally proposed pre-populated from your final application. Compiling these numbers will be much easier if you plan now to track them as your project proceeds, so setting up a shared document to do that will be something you'll thank yourself for later. CLIR does have a file manifest template you can use for this if you wish, located on the Manage and Award page.
Next up is the financial assessment, which comes in two parts. The first is the financial narrative. In the narrative report, this is a place for you to comment on actual grant expenditures during the reporting period as they relate to your proposed budget. Every budget category should be at least mentioned here, and if there are any variances of 5% or more between projected and actual spending, make sure to include a detailed explanation of the reasons for that over or under expenditure. You should also discuss any approved budget modifications since your last report. The second part is the financial report itself, which is an upload using the same budget detail spreadsheet that you submitted with your proposal. The only difference is that you will have both the budgeted and actual fields filled in this time for the current reporting period instead of just the budgeted column. A budget detail specific to your project was sent to project PIs and financial contacts via email and will also be attached to future report reminder emails. And this is the file you should edit and submit. If you have any budget reallocations or no-cost extensions approved in the course of your project, we will provide you with an updated budget detail to use that reflects the approved changes. This screenshot of the budget detail template is just a reminder of what this looks like. If you ever lose track of this file, email us and our team can provide you with a replacement. Note the field for investment income on this sheet. All CLIR grantees are expected to keep grant funds in a secure interest-bearing account and to report on interest income here. Interest earned on grant funds may be used to support direct costs for your project, so you should be prepared to indicate how much interest has been earned each period and how that interest has been spent. The template is cumulative and will be built upon over the course of the project. Grantees are expected to update this spreadsheet with the actual spending for the period in question, which may vary from the amount budgeted. Canadian recipients will need to enter the exchange rate they received at disbursement in order to complete the financial report tab of their budget form in Canadian dollars. When it comes time to submit your final report, as opposed to your interim reports, you will include a final project assessment, which has 4 required components. The final project narrative, which will be an overall assessment of your project, including the most significant outcomes, challenges, and lessons learned. The final financial narrative and report, which will show all actual expenses, interest earned, and indicate and explain any remaining award funds. These will have to be returned to CLIR as directed by CLIR's return funds policy. URLs or other instructions to access the digitized collections and metadata in any catalogs, repositories, or services you've used, And finally, a project manifest, which is a spreadsheet containing a sampling of URLs linking to actual digital files created through your project.
The project manifest is a spreadsheet which includes the names and locations of a representative sampling of the digital files, normally the access copies, as well as notations about any checksums and restrictions for those files. We're requiring this because we are using an automated tool, a kind of web crawler, that allows us to conduct periodic checks that the online files created through CLIR's digitization regranting programs remain, in fact, online. Note that CLIR's template for this has multiple tabs, including one with instructions, so be sure to read through all of them. Taking a look at this template now and building completion of this document into your workflow will help you save time later. For those of you who work with vendors, often your digitization vendor will return a spreadsheet to you that will be very similar to what you need to submit here. And you should be able to adapt the vendor's spreadsheet for this template. If you work out your file naming conventions at the start of your project and ensure your vendor names your files exactly according to your needs, most of your work for this requirement will be done. If you leave it until the end, it may take some scrambling to pull it together. So we do strongly recommend coming up with a strategy for compiling this data during the course of the project work. Of all of the pieces of the final report, this document is what allows us to verify that you have created all the deliverables agreed upon when you accepted the grant. This evidence is critical to our own reporting to the Mellon Foundation, so we really appreciate your help in making this possible for us. Once all report tasks are completed in SM-Apply for either the interim or final report, there is a final step necessary in order to submit your report to CLIR. Click the green Submit button once you have reviewed all answers and documents and are ready to submit. Once you hit Submit the first time, you will be prompted to hit Submit again or given one last chance to review. A quick warning, if you choose Review, then you are presented with all of the content associated with the application, initial application, final application, and all related forms and reports. You'll need to scroll down a bit to see the newly completed task if you'd like to review the parts of the report you've just completed. As we mentioned, there can be multiple collaborators within one project reporting space. However, only the application owner is given the option to submit. If you have completed the report and need to submit it to CLIR, but do not see the option to submit, that indicates that you are not the application owner. Contact us to complete submission for you in instances where the application owner is not available to do so, or if the project team is unsure who owns the application.
We know all of that was a lot of information, but we've now reached the final section of our presentation to share some brief information about modes of communication before we turn over to questions and discussion. CLIR's website contains quite a lot of information for you as you move into your grant recipient role. Just as you may have used the resources of the Apply for an Award page during the grant writing process, we have a similar page as you work through your project, the Manage an Award page, which we've talked about quite a lot today. Here you will find information on the grant modification and reporting process, including reporting templates, information on citing CLIR, and where we will post a link to this webinar. On the Funded Projects page, you can find descriptions of each of the projects that have been funded by the Hidden Collections program to date. If you have not already done so, please review your project title, organizations, and project summary that's currently posted there and send us any proposed changes. On CLIR's policy page, you will find the acknowledgement guidelines for recipients of grants or fellowships. If discussing CLIR in press releases, you will want to review these guidelines. The best way to contact us is through the program email, hiddencollections@clir.org. We also love to hear about your progress. If you are sharing updates on Blue Sky, please feel free to tag us so we can repost. If there is something you would like us to share directly with our followers, just email the team. We love to be able to spread the word about the amazing work you're doing. We also try to share your news in CLIR's Grants and Programs newsletter, so check our website for details on how to subscribe to that if you haven't already done so.
We're going to get ready to submit some questions. For any question and answers, please put your questions in the Q&A box, and then we'll be able to answer them in order. First question, are there any restrictions on purchase or use of relevant technologies for projects? As far as purchases for your project, that should have already been put in your budget that was approved by the review panel when you were awarded your grant. As always, you should check our disallowed and allowable costs document to make sure that you are not spending anything on anything that's disallowed, but that would have already been checked when we did our tech review. Any other questions?
When will the funding be dispersed? The funding has been dispersed and should have been received. It is not dispersed in installments. It is given as a full award by the start date of the grant. So if you've not yet received your full award, you should contact us at hiddencollections@clir.org.
Also, if you're at a larger institution, maybe somebody else at your institution has already received the payment and has not notified your department, so check with your funding department first. Could you please share what the biggest changes are from previous years in the reporting? I don't think we've had any big changes in the last few years. It's been the same for a few years now.
Are the grant interest funds returned? Currently, we have interest considered as a part of the return of funds policy. We are reviewing that, so it may change in the course of these projects. And if so, we will notify you all and supply you with a different budget detail that removes it from the reporting, but that has not been decided on as of yet. So currently, that is considered as part of the return of funds policy, which you can find on our CLIR.org policies page.
Any other questions?
We're just going to hang out here and give you guys a few moments to process the info dump.
The recording of and transcript will be posted later, no later than next week. I would also encourage, and we stated this in the video, for you to share that with other members of your team, and especially any of your financial or reporting personnel.
And these resources will all be aggregated on our Manage and Award page.
The next one is, for the budget reallocations, is the 5% guidance on needing prior approval or not a cumulative one, or is it per reallocation? It's 5% of the total budget of your personal total budget. And yes, it's per reallocation. So it's for the overall budget. So you may have two reallocations. So that should, if it's 5% or more of your total budget, then yes, you have to get prior approval.
Thank you guys. We gotta thank you.
Thank you. Oh, 30th anniversary. Congratulations.
Yeah, nice.
We wish we could fund everyone. And these projects were amazing. And it's nice to see the intersectionality in all of the projects.
Do we think that's all the questions? I don't want to take up y'all's time.
Yeah.
Let me put our last slide up. And I think there's some.
Yes, I am speaking now.
Thank you, Lizzie.
Sorry, y'all. Before we go, we want to note a short survey about the webinar. This is part of our program assessment, so your honest feedback on the webinar will help us in our future support efforts. Thank you all for joining us today. We'll be posting the recording and slides soon to our Manage and Award page, which we've been linking to throughout this webinar. In the meantime, if you think of any additional questions, you can always reach us at hiddencollections@clir.org. We really look forward to working with you and hope you all have a wonderful day. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. Bye.
Thanks, guys.